Guys, I'm here live on site at Symmetry Oasis. I'm here with my good friend, Dr. Devin, and we are on episode 11, It's Your Life, Time to Live It. So let's have some fun, Devin.
This is living it.
Absolutely. It's your life, time to live it. Welcome to episode number 11, It's Your Life, Time to Live It. And I'm here with my good friend, Dr. Devin. Welcome.
Yeah,
thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
Excellent.
thank you. Yeah.
And we're here on site of a property that you bought from Realtor DR. How many years now?
It's almost 2.5 years ago. We're right here checking this place out.
I think this was maybe the spot where you made up your mind.
I think the moment I stepped on this property is I made up my mind. It took a little bit more time for Chelsea to kind of get on board, though.
Absolutely. That happens, right? So walk me through kind of like how you guys knew. What inspired you first for the Dominican Republic? Okay. Was this your first time coming here? And kind of what were the factors as far as what you felt, you and your family, when you visited this property?
So Chelsea and I, we had this kind of core group of friends that we had back from Washington State, and we every year, once a year, we take a week-long trip and we go to Mexico. Typically, go to Cancun, go to Puerto Vallarta, and so we did this with this group, and this group we had our whole lives together. We had kids similar ages, and we kind of shared all of our responsibilities. They're all kind of business leaders also, and every year we go, and I'm like kind of like yourself, where it's like I have a high level energy and I like to do stuff, right? And so for my spare time, I sit on board of directors and nonprofit organizations, and I'd have to find myself, like, when other people go on vacation, they're like, let's just chill, and that's just not me. So I'm like, I like to renovate parks and build community centers and raise money for nonprofits. And so we go on vacation and everyone just like, Devin, just chill out. And so I'd have to go just like rev it down. And so I would go run for 10, 20 miles on the beach in the morning just to be, tolerable. And so then this is what kind of sparked this idea of like, well, I remember we're walking on the beach one day and we're like, see this abandoned hotel for sale. And we're like, wouldn't it be incredible if we all went together and bought a place? And then we would have this vacation place, which is the original idea.
Yeah.
And then I could then go like affect the community. Cause I'm like, back in Arlington, Washington, where we're from, like we built parks, splash pads, community centers. And I'm like, can you imagine what we could do in a developing nation? And so that kind of like ignited us, like our whole core group of friends that were like, yes. So then we came back home and I remember I got really, really sick because we went to all-inclusive resorts, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like, I'm not like a moderation kind of person. So if, drinks are included, I'm like taking advantage of that. So I was so sick. I'm like contemplating my life decisions. I'm like, I really need to work on my drinking when I go on vacation. And my brother-in-law is like, hey, dude, do you guys have coronavirus? Never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And I thought he was referring to the beer. And I was like, well, yeah, I think I do. And then I found out pretty quickly afterwards that this whole pandemic was beginning, and then the world shut down right after that. And so our core group of friends that we had, pretty much they all coped with the pandemic differently. And a lot of them not very healthily. And so our core group of friends they all one struggled with gambling addiction, lost everything. One person struggled with unfaithfulness, lost his wife. So our friends, like we had this core thing, people that we had, so much in common with, all of a sudden just broke apart. And it was because they weren't able to withstand the storm that was the stress of the pandemic. And so when things opened back up again, Chelsea and I, we still have this dream of like making this difference internationally. And so she gets the credit because she was researching countries, because Mexico, I don't know if you knew this, but you can't really buy and own there.
It's way more complicated.
Super complicated.
Yep.
And so really we're looking for a place that would be a place where we could feel comfortable taking our family.
Yes.
And that had a community of people already existing there that were established that we can tap into. And she came across in a number of countries, but really Dominican Republic was the top of the list. And so as soon as the mask mandates ended, we booked our flights, and then we came out here. And Bobby, I fell in love with this country. Like there is something about it that is just like the energy, the chaos of driving, the music is bumping everywhere.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, within 2 days, I was like, this is it. And so we ended up, I remember I'd get up before everybody else and got on the computer and then find the one real estate company with an established website.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Realtor DR, because you
Started an online chat.
started an online chat, and
Yeah.
Hannah, our now good friend, she was like, I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. I mean, it was like the most seamless interaction, right? It was like I was talking to someone that was just like, her whole goal was like to find out what we needed. Because initially she was like, okay, here's some villas. I'm like, no, I want somewhere raw, like fruit trees, ecotourism. And then she sent us link to this property.
Yep.
And then literally like maybe a day later, we were in a car driving up the hill to come check it out.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible.
No, I remember that like it was yesterday, and now it's a couple of years fast forward, right?
Yeah.
So the family. Describe your family, like the ages, the children.
Yes. Yeah, so we have 3 kids. Penny is 11, Callan is 6, and then Beckett is now 9. And so 2 years ago, when we came here, that was, they're a little bit younger, so a pretty young family.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Carpool.
a carpool.
A carpool in the Picanto the first time, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
That's a full car.
yeah. Well, it was a full car, but we also remember we came and we rented the Airbnb with another family, right? With 5 also.
Yes.
So we stacked in.
Oh my goodness!
So you go to Corolla, we had 10 people in this car.
Oh my goodness!
And yeah, so then we were quite the sight for the Dominicans, because it was like, all these white, like, and we're white, I'm quite a bit more tan.
Now you got a suntan. Now you're in regular mode. No, that was that was coming from the States,
Washington State, winter. Like we got out, it's just like all the Dominicans, that we were like a spectacle.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, our kids, they're active. Like Penny does gymnastics, Beckett and Callan do baseball, and we have a little hobby farm in Washington, so they used to playing outside, but they weren't used to this. They weren't used to jungle.
But kids adopt pretty easily. I think they adopt easier than most adults.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Right? Because they come out here, and you talk to adults, because I mean, this is a jungle. We're gonna do like some shots of like what this place is, but we are in the jungle. Yeah, and and
I know if they can just even zoom in the background over here, it's like where the skies kiss the mountaintop. It's absolutely stunning. And like we were saying before, like every day is different, just with the cloud structure, or if it's raining, or if it's just sunny out. Like it's just amazing how the earth paints a picture on there that every single moment is different.
Every day you walk into this kitchen room, and it's like every day it takes for me, it's like whoa, every day. And
it was a no-brainer of where we were going to have our conversation today. This was the perfect spot. This is exactly what I thought when I walked in and I saw it set up. I was like, we already knew.
And this is our view. Like every night, we don't have TV here. We sit right there, and we watch as the sun sets right over Mount Isabel. And so like, and we describe this scene, but a lot of adults, like going back to the thought that like adults have a more difficult time adapting, right?
Yep.
And it's like, it's a lot of different, right? And it's like, this is jungle, wild. You can hear the sounds around us.
Yeah.
The kids, it wasn't even like they adapted. They just like evolved.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like running, playing, catching lizards, like no fear, no hesitancy, just like fully resilient, happy, full life kids.
And that's one of the reasons why myself, Catherine, my 2 children, 15 and 12 now, was the biggest decision why we decided to make the switch over here was for them, right? Was for family,
right?
And them being maybe not so connected with the electronics as much as they could be with nature and water sports, being social with other children. And it was so much easier to do that here than it was with our lifestyle back home. So when we were factoring all the pros and cons as far as making those big decisions for us, those were definitely some of the benefits of why we decided to make that relocation decision for our family as well. Now, you mentioned something that's really important in your search. You talked about giving back, right? When you started looking at different opportunities outside of the United States, you're looking at countries. One thing that I found about here is that a little bit can go a long way. Can you talk about kind of the community and some of the things that you've brought to the forefront as far as trying to help the community around here? Because you've made a big difference in a short period of time.
Yeah, and you supported us in that and been so appreciative, and your team members too. It's very, very generous. In the biggest thing that we found, and this has been no matter where we lived in Washington and Arlington, and we discovered the needs within the community. It doesn't take much to find needs. And I mean, again, this is like Haiti. I think it's like the poorest country in the world.
It's
Right?
in
Somewhere up there.
in the Caribbean here, Dominican Republic is ranked number 1, and Haiti is rated on the farthest part
Right.
of the spectrum, but we
Right.
share the same island,
Right.
which is really, really ironic, right?
Right. Yes, and that's a whole other conversation,
Totally.
too, isn't it? And there's a lot of like cross-cultural kind of blending that
Challenges, yeah.
challenges, and so for us, like we came down here, and we had this idea, right, that we were going to help with recycling efforts and for providing food, and then we learned pretty quickly. It's like, okay, the bigger needs like happen when we have torrential downpours and
That was, yeah.
9 feet of flooding. I mean, this whole village, whole town down here,
Really?
like underwater. We went and toured the towns. I mean, they said within 1 hour, like it was 9 feet up.
Oh
So
my goodness.
everything
Wow.
that people owned was just
Wiped out in
wiped
a
out.
matter of that time.
Yeah, boom, taken down the river.
Wow.
And so we ended up, and the timing was just perfect because we were coming down anyway. So we asked several people in the community of like, okay, what do you need? And so they needed clothes and needed cosmetic stuff like toothpaste, toothbrushes,
The bare
like that.
essentials.
Yeah, and then I mean, especially like as far as like money going a long way, I mean, we could buy a mattress, a bed for $100
Yeah.
for, and in a lot of these places, I mean, there's small rooms. So a mattress, a bed, where we would say that's one person's bed, that's all their kids' beds.
Yeah.
And so we put out a notice to our community leaders that we've met through here, and we got a list. I think we ended up with a list of 84 people.
Yeah.
And it was 2 hours. It took us 2 hours to fundraise enough money to buy mattresses for all the people.
Wow.
I mean, and again, going into these people's houses, everything is gone,
Wow.
but now they have somewhere clean and dry to sleep.
Yeah.
Like life-changing.
It's amazing. This is the first time that Realtor DR or even yourself, I've seen publicly that we've mentioned that. But one thing that I always tell our team, people that come down here to visit, our clients that become friends, our clients that are coming down here, is these are the little things that and how you can contribute, how you can make a difference in your community. And when new people enter the community and in the country that are high quality people,
right,
that care and want to make a difference, that's the type of people that right now I see that are falling in love with the Dominican Republic.
It's almost like God's whispering to them. They're just like coming here, aren't they?
Yeah. So, and on one token, like some people don't want it to change, but some change is good. Right. And when people come and they add value,
right,
I think that's really important to understand, right? Is that this is the type of person, you have a professional background. Right. You've already helped so many people in different parts of their health and wellness, but also coming here and being able to help in a situation like that. That's a perfect example of bringing value to a community. And I applaud you for that, and quarterbacking it. And anytime moving forward that you are spearheading something like that, count Realtor DR and our team in, because we want to make a difference also.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we hit on a point that a lot of people becomes a talking point of like, well, I don't want things to change. I don't want things to change either. I mean, this place it's developing. So either it can develop into something bigger and grander than what it is, or it can change. And I don't think change is what's needed.
I like your wording.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to make sure that I'm using that type of wording because that resonates with me and it connects more with my heart than using the word change.
Right. Because it's not really change. It's up because we came here and we found needs and we met the needs. And the same thing when I go into villages, the people that make $200 a month and they can't afford get chiropractic care. And I go in there and I am like, hey, I'm here to heal by hand. And kids flocked, and they flocked by hundreds to come get adjusted. And the things, because I don't, I speak a lot I teach doctors back in the States. I do continuing education. I do seminars. I do classes. I had a big clinic and I do so much educating.
Yeah.
But here, I can barely speak Spanish. I can say boca abajo, boca arriba, right? And face up or face down. And that's about it. And to hear the stories of like simply hands-on healing are community leader that we work with in Nuevo Progreso, she's like, hey, I want to introduce you to this person that this person's now sleeping better. They're not having headaches. They're not getting angry at their kids. And it's like, and husbands too, like coming in and be like, and he's treating his wife better. And they're still proud of themselves, right?
Amazing.
And it like just puts things for me in perspective of like, I don't know about you. You're pretty perfect, but for me, like, I get sometimes get frustrated. I get snappy with my kids, right?
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. And it's amazing how these little people can sometimes get you going. And it's like, come on, man, I'm sharper than that. How'd they get me reacting like that, right? Their children are like a true, like, it's amazing how these little people can get you going sometimes. Sometimes I reflect as a parent. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I know I can do better.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. And so it's like, really, for me, I've gained an inspiration from the Dominican people that they've endured such hardship. And they're like, when I can help them heal and then help them control themselves, like how proud they are of themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Of like and I think that's a universal thing. It's like, we all want to be better versions for our little people. Beckett's sitting over there.
Absolutely.
And it's like just cool to be able to like meet a need and then see people become the better versions of themselves that they want to be.
Absolutely. Right? Now, talking a little bit about if we can just maybe get into a little bit, your professional background and how that's connected to your vision with that property, because I think there's a connection. You talked about some of it right now, but let's connect a little bit more of the dots there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I've been a chiropractor for over a decade. And my journey kind of started in my upbringing. I grew up in a very poor family, living in a trailer in the sticks of Snohomish with a single income, household. With my dad was a landscaper. He did his best, but he struggled with drug addiction. My mom struggled with legal drug addiction. And we like didn't have dinner, often poor. Right. 4 boys, and kind of a predictable story in the United States, at least where I was from. And then I ended up getting in a roll-over car accident in high school. I went through a side window of a car at 55 miles an hour. It compressed a bunch of discs in my spine, paralyzed part of my face. I walked with a leg drag, and then was sent to a medical doctor, and then began the process of treating pain, which then led to drug addiction.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I suffered for about a year because of, and it's nothing wrong with medical doctors. They have their tools, right? And those tools are to treat the pain, and then we become dependent on them. And I remember just like every night, just laying in bed. I mean, again, I went from athlete to walking with a limp, and just thinking like, if this is the way the rest of my life is going to be, like, is that life even worth living? Like, it was a regular thought. And eventually someone was like, hey, why don't you go to a chiropractor? Which I was like, well, why would I? They're not real doctors, right? Everyone knows that. But at this point, again, I am pretty much out of hope.
Yeah, and you're looking for something to get you going, to show you the light at the end of the tunnel.
Some kind of thing, because at this point, it's like, you've sustained significant injuries. This is the way your life is going to be. Sorry. And so I ended up going to a chiropractor and beginning. I remember after the first adjustment, I was so like endorphined up. I got lost on my way home, and then the next day I felt like I just got hit by a bus, and I was like, I'm not going back to that witch doctor, right? And then the day after that, I was like, I feel a little bit better, and then gradually regaining my health and my resiliency and my ability to function and have a life that is abundant, which led to my decision of being a chiropractor, because I was like, you know what? We see firsthand in the United States what the road that I was on leads to.
Yeah.
And that my chiropractor changed my road. And so I thought, what better job than to be able to do that? And so that led me to where I was as a chiropractor, and then led me to having the biggest pediatric clinic in Washington State. And it led me here because, again, I was serving this small group of people, and I realized, like, within each of us, we have the capacity to heal. It just becomes shut off, just becomes overloaded. And so really, when we stepped here, I just saw this as a tool to helping people understand that they can get better. They don't have to stay stuck. And there's no shame in being where you are, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, I use the tool.
You have to know where you are to understand where you want to go, right?
Right. And for us, like, we want to be a tool that helps people to then move through whatever they're dealing with, and then ultimately live a life that's abundant. And it comes back to Chelsea and I. We are followers of Jesus, and Jesus says, hey, live a life that's abundantly and serve the people in front of you. And so as soon as I stepped on this property, everyone had stress going through the pandemic, even the people that were like, it wasn't that bad, right? And
Yeah, that was, I think it put everything in perspective for people and started to really, for a lot of people ask themselves, how do they want to live?
and that's where I was, because what I noticed is my stress that I was under was starting to affect my kids.
Yeah.
And it would have been very convenient for me to say, oh, their kids just have a hard time. But, for me, like, I'm responsible for them.
Yeah.
And I realized that my life had gotten out of balance, and that imbalance was then directly affecting our kids. And as soon as we stepped on this property, and like the waterfall's turned off right now, that's like the sound, you can almost hear the bird sound in the background, but the sound of the birds and the waterfall, it was like the first time I was able to take a breath and just like really like be like, this place is healing.
Yeah. No, you can feel it. There's an energy that's connected here, right? I think for me, and I think when I'm working with different professionals, or getting to know different professionals, I think the common denominator to somebody who's excellent in their field is that they're doing it because they're passionate about it. And obviously that's something that you're passionate with. It's connected with your personal story. It's connected with the successful business that you had. And it's connected with all the different work that you're doing here in helping people, in children, in families feel better about themselves and showing them and giving them that light that you had that someone else shared with you.
Exactly.
I think that's the common denominator over there.
And I think it speaks volumes on your crew too, because it's like, really, it's like, here's this chat widget. I don't know how many. I think that's probably the only time I've gotten on a chat widget and like actually got help, right? Because Henna is like just the same thing. She embodies, she loves what you guys do. You see lives transform with getting people into this island that in itself is invigorating. And so it's like the same thing, like the passion that you have for serving people and connecting people with a place that can really give them ownership of what their life is. It's like, it just shines through.
I was explaining to some of my team the other day, because I was in the furniture, appliance, and electronic business at an early age and fell in love with sales and helping people. And I would get excited when they bought a sofa for me. So you only can imagine when they buy a big property like this, how excited I can get. It's like times 100,000, you know what I mean? So it was just like magnitude, the amount of difference that I feel, that the value that we could provide, the difference that we could make. And because when somebody's trusting you with such an important life decision, myself and my team, I can speak for them on this, that they take that very, very seriously. And even going back to the chat option and how you discovered Realtor DR, I know for a lot of people, there's a big thing with artificial intelligence now, and we had a lot of companies and be like, hey, we can program like your website so that people have automated responses and do this and do that. It's just not Realtor DR.
Yeah.
So, during working hours, we always have some of our top agents there. Our goal is to respond within minutes and give them that personal connection. And I think in this situation is a perfect example. Without that personal connection, this story may not be the same.
No, not at all. Not at all.
May be different.
Yeah.
Also speaking, so I know there's the physical side of what you do, like the hands-on, but I think there's more than to the physical side, and you touched on a little bit, the wellness. What else, coming here and having your family spend time here, what does the other side of the wellness mean for your family here?
Okay. Say a little bit more of that so I can answer you specifically.
Sure. I think the physical side,
Yeah.
it's easy to kind of, identify. So the fresh fruit,
Right.
You go for an incredibly long jogs.
Yeah.
You're in great physical shape. With your practice, you can be hands-on and making those connections. But I think what you talked about also is the spiritual side. It's the energy.
Yes.
It's the connection. It's like when you look out here, sometimes I guess the feeling is hard to describe.
It just comes across as cliche phrases, doesn't it? Yeah.
I guess
like,
so.
People come out and they're like, it's life-changing. And it's like, it's hard to, to put it in the words.
It's hard to like monetize it in a way, right? And I don't know if there's the right way to do it, but obviously talking about like, things that a lot of people went through with COVID, I think that became more evident that that wellness, mental side of it really was difficult for most people. Not like most people had a hard time with that, right? Like in Canada, I'm not sure in the States how the restrictions were, but we were lucky enough to be here during that. But we're talking to family, like my aunt, who always has family over every single Christmas. Okay. Like the family over for dinner was like, she wasn't allowed to have anybody over. And it's her. That was the first Christmas in, since I've been around. ever that she spent Christmas on her own.
Yeah.
You know, there's something to that connection there where that's unhealthy, I guess. You know, you need that connection.
I think, yeah, unhealthy. I think that's the best phrase for it. And that was when we first moved out here, because at the point where we came out here, it was Washington State was the most mandate intensive state in the United States. And we were, our, to give you an idea, like how close we were to the epicenter of the COVID start in the United States, the first responder for the first COVID patient was one of our patients. Yeah, so we were real close to it, and you hit it on the head. Unhealthy. And there might be a better word, but I think that's the best word that we have right now, because to be cut off from living is to digress in health. And my really the conversation that we had with the owners of this property, because it was owned before by an incredible family.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it had a story to tell.
Oh
There's
my
a
God.
story here,
It's
and
goosebumps just thinking
yeah,
about it.
no,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
I got it too.
Yeah.
It's like, it was almost like the perfect match.
It was the perfect match, and the family were missionaries. And the promise that I made to the family, because we literally signed on. I mean, because here there's some seller financing, but most of it is you pay cash. And
Almost all our deals
Yeah.
are paid in full, and yours was almost paid in full. Like, believe me, that they weren't complaining about that.
it was all in, you know,
Yeah.
and it was literally everything we had. And I told the owners, who were missionaries, that built the school, built the church, built the village down there, that built this whole facility. I told them, you know, I truly believe that we can, through living here and studying this place, we can teach people that the healing power within the Bible is just as real now as it was back in the day when Jesus came and spoke about it. And so that's what I committed to. And I ended up studying with some of the top researchers in the world, with neuroanatomy, Dr. Yuri Gitron, PhD in neuroimmunology in Israel, and Dr. Heidi Havoc, PhD in neuroanatomy in New Zealand, and then just reading through scriptures here. And what I had concluded, I wrote a whole first book on this, on this also, is that thing is that, like, really we were created to be immersed in nature. And in the Bible, like the book of Genesis says, you know, in the beginning, the Garden of Eden, that's when we're in full commune with God. And like so I've tried to figure out a way to balance like science and scripture, so to take something that's built on a belief system and then understand it. Right.
Yes.
So it's like, I don't just believe this, I understand it. And
That's
therefore
right.
it's easy for me to believe in. And what I have concluded is that our nervous systems is consistently perceiving and adapting to our environment. So in nature is where our species existed for
Yeah.
like 300,000 years. And we would exist with people. And we would adapt to our environment, which would make us resilient. And so like here, I mean, this is as close as Garden of Eden as you can get.
My goodness, I agree with you. And only recently, we've moved, and we have a bigger property now. We have mango trees, we have avocado trees, we have granola,
Yeah.
we have banana, we have plantain.
Nice.
I'm planting some lemon trees
Nice.
and some other tropical fruits. And every time that we're lucky enough that we have an avocado or a mango, that's something that I've witnessed and been a part of, and that I've looked at every single day.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough to have that and share that with our family. It just tastes so much better.
It tastes better.
Oh my goodness. Like
Yeah.
coming from, like, you're in a major market in Washington, and I was in Toronto, and 98% of all our, you know, grocery needs were met by like big commercial stores, like
Right.
big, huge ones,
Yes.
out of convenience.
Right.
And because that was what was readily available in
Right.
that area. And from here, you can go either on your property and have fresh coconut juice,
Right.
stop at the side of the road,
Yeah.
somebody who's had fruits and vegetables from their farm.
Yes.
And there's a component to that health side of it that makes you feel better.
And it's measurable too, because that's I pretty much, if there's one piece of technology, if anyone's like, hey, I want to take control of my health, look into heart rate variability.
Okay.
It measures our vagus nerve, which is the nerve that controls how we feel ease and peace.
Mm-hmm.
And then the prefrontal cortex, which is the main part of our neuroanatomy that allows us to perceive stress and then immediately be strengthened from it.
Okay.
And it is crazy.
Yeah.
In most technology, most like sports watches has it built in. Like, just being here improves healing. Nothing else changes.
Combine that
Yeah.
with almost every single day of the year, you're going to have great sunlight.
Yes.
Combine that with the fact that if you're grounding and you want to walk around without your shoes
Right.
on the earth, I
Yes.
think there's a component to that, because
Yeah.
when I surf and my feet are touching the sand,
Well, and even in the ocean, I mean, they've magnified that.
and
It's
then the
exponential.
salt water.
And it's right there. It's 2 miles away.
No, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like our backyard.
Yeah.
It's like
It is. Yeah.
it's like what we had on our vision board. We thought was like a dream for a long time, and now is actually our reality.
Right.
Like for us, you know, a typical Saturday morning looks like we go, and I've seen you on the beach on Playa Encuentro with the kids, and I get to go out there and surf with my children and start my day that way.
Yeah.
If I'm lucky enough, after we have a lunch together as a family, and then maybe call a couple of my friends, maybe go golfing here at the golf course. Like, man, it's like the life that back in the day when I was living really fast and doing all the things I needed to do at that time was like, I really want to live that way. How do I get there? And then slowly just started mapping it out and turned that vision from there and manifested it, and then put a plan with the family, and we're able to do it. Right. You talked a little bit about the property. So, okay, if you can kind of give us an overview of like, because there's a lot of different things happening here. Share with us, you know, the dynamics of this property and the unique features that it has.
Oh my gosh, where to
I
start?
don't know where to start.
Yeah, it's like
Start with some of your favorites.
well, one of the first things, and Chelsea is she's a little more cautious than I am. I showed up here and I was like, "Yep, game on." And so Chelsea didn't tell me this, but when we first arrived here, you know, it's like there's a village at the very bottom of the hill. It's a very much a real world experience of how developing nations live.
Yep.
And then you go through these rusty gates, and then it's like insert soundtrack for the, you know, Jurassic Park. Oh, no. That's like what it feels like when you're driving through.
No, it does a little bit. I'll tell you. Yeah, it does. I forgot how long actually it takes to get up here from there. And I bypassed the road even though I've been here before. Yeah. But like I was talking on the phone, and it's a little small road to get there. And if you miss it, like I end up having to drive it and like do a pretty big loop, right? So it is a piece of paradise, but it's a little bit hidden, right?
We're only 5 kilometers from the airport, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's unreal, because here you would never know it, because it's just, they say tranquilo in the Dominican Republic. So we like go up this driveway in Jurassic Park, full jungle, mile long, goes up the long hill, and then the very top of the hill there is this Mandala Labyrinth, which is basically this meditative walkway. When we first got here, we got out and we were all walking around, and they have all this custom art that Jana, the wife of Dr. Bob, the main matriarch of the family, built, like all these custom glass made archways. And so Chelsea, she said later, she didn't tell me until we're moving forward on the property, like we had the offer in and we were committed. She's like, when she stepped out of that, like she said, she didn't know why, she's like had tears come into her eyes. Wow. And it's been a common thing that people come out. And the idea with the Mandala Labyrinth is it's this brick walkway that's a circle. And the idea is you hold on to one thought and then you move forward. And so the idea is to reinforce within your mind that whatever it is you're focused on, you're moving forward. So you may turn left, you may turn right, but it doesn't matter. You're still moving forward to whatever that thing is. And that piece right there alone has been so impactful for so many people that have come out and stayed out here, because that is such a reminder that you kind of hit on in this idea of, okay, I have this thing that I'm moving towards, and then life gets in the way. You take a left. Oh gosh, maybe that wasn't meant to be, but whatever God puts on your heart. And I found, I simply wrote down one time, own a retreat center in the Dominican Republic when the world was on lockdown, right?
Yeah, I know. At that point in time, it was hard to even think past like what's happening tomorrow, let alone have a vision for something that at that point in time, you didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. Right. It was a really confusing time.
Super confusing.
And to touch on what you just said, I think is one of the things that I've tried my best to learn from the culture here. And I think when you're from North America, we're either worried about what's already happened, we're either really busy thinking about what's going to happen, and sometimes we forget to be in the moment. And one thing that I've tried to learn, being a father, being a partner, a business owner, with friends, is be in the moment. Right. And the culture here, a lot of it is being in the moment. Yes. Right. And that gives a sense of like real freedom. I don't know if that makes sense.
it's almost just taking a weight off the shoulder of
Yep.
like all the have tos or shoulds.
Yep.
Right. Because our life right now is a dream life. Your life is a dream life.
Yep.
It seems unreal. Right.
And that connected me with how you're explaining when you're taking the one step at a time, just kind of focusing
Yes.
at that moment.
At that moment.
And that's how I kind of connected that with a feeling that I have when I'm here.
Yeah. When you're here. And that's the thing. It's like everything about this place reinforces that within the mind. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, again, and we haven't even unveiled everything that was thought through this place. It's such a special place. Like, for example, these plants that are sitting right behind us, these are called Moses in a cradle.
Okay.
Because in the farmlands down there's mosquitoes and bugs, and we're in the jungle, right?
Yep.
And everyone that comes out here, they say, there's not hardly bugs out here.
So the ones with the purple over
Yeah.
here, they actually clear that?
They clear the air, they detoxify the air, and then they put off this aroma that we don't sense that repels insects.
Wow.
And they're everywhere around here. So it's just like this crazy thing, every single thing, all the art, which we'll probably get some footage of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of like everything draws your attention to the moment. And then how we then like utilize everything here is that when someone receives a chiropractic adjustment, when you directly affect that vagus nerve by resetting it, it tells their brain like this is the new normal. That's why people oftentimes when they get adjusted, they're like, everything's okay. It's like it sets that nervous system on balance. So we literally can take every aspect of this place and then program it into people's neurology so they take it home with them.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you hit on, like the mango trees, like the mango trees, we have limoncello everywhere. Like in the evenings, we do cocktail hour with Dominican rum, and then fruit made right here, right? Yeah. So it's like we have so many orange trees, lemon trees, lime trees, and it's like everything here is meant to reinforce that. Like it's all right. Just right
Even
here.
when I walked in and before we got started, we were just getting caught up with family and life and stuff like that, getting reconnected. And I think there was a moment there for like 15 seconds where you went quiet, I went quiet, and I was just looking out there because my mind was empty. Because when I looked out there, that's I was just in the moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's really important to slow down and be in that moment. Now, I know that we're painting a picture that sometimes in the DR, like the story's great and obviously you're excited and this is incredible, but there's also challenges. Maybe walk us through some of the things that maybe somebody like yourself, maybe they're discovering the island. What are some things they need to get used to, or what are some of the unique challenges that you found with, making a big decision like this?
Well, I think we hit on this a little bit before we started about like the idea of coming to decisions on your own. And I would say that that's probably the most challenging thing is like come up with a decision. And for me and Chelsea especially, like our most important thing is our children.
Yes.
Right. And so when we chose the Dominican Republic, like we wanted the place where we knew we could feel good about raising our kids. And so when we decided to come here, that was the first decision. That was like the hardest thing. Like what is going to be the best for them developing into resilient adults, right?
Yes.
Happy kids that run and play and are resilient and do it naturally, right? Not through some kind of like artificial environment, like, put them on a tablet or, get them some kind of medication to manage their energy level, but like have them to be able to develop resiliency. And I think if someone that's deciding or thinking about coming to the Dominican Republic, I think if they can just say, okay, I'm coming into this environment to develop resiliency, everything else is easy.
Yeah.
Because is it different? Yes. Does that create feelings within us that are perceived as like stressful? Yes. But what's the difference between stress and excitement?
Yeah. I was talking to my daughter the other day and she had a jiu-jitsu tournament and she was using the wording, I'm nervous. And I said, hey, let's switch it around and let's change it for excitement because they kind of feel the same way.
They're the same.
But you've been practicing for so long and you're prepared for this moment. So let's change the word from nervous to excitement. And instantly something switched with their shoulders, her confidence level, just by that little small switch that you just talked about. For my daughter in that specific scenario over there made a big difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
And and I think that's like the thing, right? Because people sometimes come down here, the traffic is crazy, and that's crazy. The tranquilo nature of the workforce, again, coming from Western
Of course,
Washington, it's like
totally different. Such a competitive
oriented.
marketplace, and everything is on a time schedule. Everything is like coordinated, organized, down to the point. And here,
It's different.
it's different.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. I'll change the word. It's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So I'm learning to work through that,
Yeah.
and I'm learning. I don't want to lower the standards as much as helping bridge the gap.
Right.
I think that's really a commitment of ours, but also being true to the fact that it's a reality. It happens, but we're going to get to the finish line, even if it takes a little bit longer.
And what I found is, again, like came down, it's like, okay, we have this place is, I haven't given you the tour yet. It was pretty taken over by the jungle. When we bought it.
Yeah.
We have to
It
reclaim it.
needed you. It needed you and your family.
Yeah. And so we had all these jobs, from repairing roofs to painting to rewiring to taking all these independent solar systems and putting together one centralized system, to the water system. I mean, this is a massive complex. And so in the States, it's like, okay, get my guy, call this person, they're going to come, call this person, they're going to come, call this person, they're going to come. But what's happened here, rather than it be like, okay, I need a solution. Here's my solution. I'm paying for it. What it has forced us to do is almost develop a team or community within this community.
Yeah.
Right. Which again was different from how I was used to being in charge of like powerful organizations that got stuff done now.
Yeah.
But what my heart and my soul long for is to become part of a community that is now solid and stable, where again the goal, again in the moment it maybe didn't feel like that, but the goal is to develop a place where our kids can grow into the people that we hoped and prayed they could be.
Absolutely.
And so then therefore, like, the outcome was that community here.
Yeah,
right? Not as quick, and that maybe is the biggest challenge, is not as quick as is used to. But again, you get a whole, like with here, it was perfect for me because there's so many different projects where it's like I can bounce around from one to another, and
you can keep busy.
You can keep busy, or you go surfing, or you go run for 20 miles out in the jungle. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we were talking beforehand, and I think when you're sharing your story, one of the reasons was to come here and get back. And you mentioned the children. I think we have that in common, because my story is around our children. When we made the decision to be here permanently, it was for the children first. I had no mindset that it was coming here to do a business or do real estate or do anything like that. It was just about a better living. And naturally, through, falling in love with everything else, I saw a gap in the marketplace and said, hey, let me fill that by providing value and sharing our story with other people. And, 5 years in, we've been able to help a lot of people like yourself, right? And I think automatically, if somebody's watching this and they have children, if you ever want to talk to yourself or myself or other people, or even our children, like, I'm going to do a podcast with the children soon. The older ones, right? That can articulate themselves. Yeah. And, we have some of my friends' children, some are homeschooled. Some go to Isla Academy, which is kind of like an entrepreneurial spirit, outdoor classroom, different concept, but great. And then my children go to the international school, which is a little bit more structured and accredited from the US. So having that panel with the children, I think, is going to be really, really interesting for parents like ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. When that's where Chelsea, she was formerly trained as a special ed, LED teacher. And so then she started, and she would never, and this is the funny thing, because if public education teachers, like, that's their identity. They don't want to have those homeschool kids, right? Until, like, she had to become a homeschool teacher, right? and now fast forward, perfect timing. It's like, we would never have made this jump if she wasn't already in that situation where she could educate her children. And so I think that I know she'd be happy to help contribute if you want to end up bringing her in, because she can speak on the teaching side of things at Excellent.
Sure.
And we talked about
that's a whole different podcast, because I have friends back home that are educators also, and it's challenging, and especially transitioning after COVID, there is a lot of new challenges, like already with the ones that were pre-existing.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, with our family, we were lucky enough that Catherine was able to stay home with the children for their first 5-6 years of their life, and also have her mom live with us, which was great support.
Wow.
And, we don't get that time back. So the more time that you can spend with your children, I think is probably one of the biggest dreams for any parent, right? Is the quality time and the amount of time, because they're getting bigger just alone coming and seeing your children. Like, they're all growing. Like, you're like, how old are the kids now? 15. You're like,
They're almost adults.
they're like,
how?
yeah, they're like way smaller before. And now they're like, my son, he's like taller than Catherine. And we went through the whole thing of his independence and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see that. And I think one thing that's also really nice is we share kind of a similar philosophy with like getting them prepared, right? Getting them prepared to be independent, getting them prepared to make great decisions. And the amount of life lessons that can be learned organically and with the leadership from you and your wife, like here, living here, is going to help them through the rest of their life.
And the crazy thing for me, because again, juxtaposition US to here, and in being immersed in nature here, and really everywhere here is immersed in nature in the Dominican Republic. I mean, everywhere. Like you go to restaurants, your feet are in the sand, right? You're on the beach having your meal, and all the like even so many restaurants have playgrounds outside where kids just play. And what we noticed that's so dramatically different, and we noticed this on the first, really when we met, when at dinner that first week we were here on vacation, like how the kids, like they just go play together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like we go in villages with Haitians and Dominicans. My kids can speak very minimal Spanish. Does it stop them from playing? Right? No, they just go run, play. And I think that as far as like raising kids that will become adults, it's like, that fills my heart with joy to like, we're training these kids. We're not even training. We're just providing them an environment where they will be people that no matter what the skin color is of the other person, that's right, the language they speak, they will naturally know how to play with other people.
Exactly.
And it's priceless, and it can't be canned. It certainly was not, I did not expect it.
Yeah. And that's something that it's amazing to observe. That's just one example, like first time ever meeting our kids, your good friends' children too. And they were children.
Yeah.
They didn't need entertainment. They didn't need a device.
No motion management.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
They figured it out on their own. And I think that's a part of life, right? Like one part is the education side and whatever the parent feels is the best opportunity for them. But then it's also the social side of it. And here, there's a lot of activities for kids. Like our kids will do summer camps over here. My son will be a like junior surf instructor this year, so it'll be his first technical like little job, you know, which is for us as parents,
a huge leadership thing.
Yeah. And then they have their soccer team at school, and then they have their friends on the beach, and now they have play dates, and they have other friends, and they have all these little things, and it's really nice because I think that's what will help place them in an environment to become really well-rounded. So that when that time comes for them to be more independent, they're going to have the tools so that they can adapt and flourish. Yes, super important. All right, so I think it's time to go for a tour. I'm excited. I purposely kept my time in this spot because it is my favorite spot, but I'm really excited to take a tour. Sounds good?
I'm excited to show you too, because again, like in 2 years, a lot has changed. So perfect to show you.
Let's do it.
What's your name, buddy?
Beckett.
How old are you?
9.
How long have we lived here for?
Up
9.
2 years, I think.
And how many tours have you given in the course of those 2 years?
A bunch.
All right, let's take it over then.
All right, let's go.
This is
kind of the
Casa
crazy thing is-
Grande.
Casa Grande.
Casa Grande. The goal is like creating like revenue or doing some of. Have you ever done a survey of how many actually fruit or different types of plants or?
Lots, because we haven't even. I mean, really,
Wow.
That is one of the mango trees right there. And then
And again, this is
there's another mango tree
to talk about
right there. A sitting spot.
I was really proud of myself. Yeah. Wow, look at the ocean from there too. Wow, you can see the whole coast. Full of life.
Yeah.
For me, this would be a great spot for a coffee or to read a book or even a little nap.
All three.
all three. Yeah, because reading does that sometimes to me. So I do a little read like in the midday afternoon and it's a little bit hot. I'm like, head's falling down on the book.
What's this, Miles?
It is the Hobbit house.
Right, have you slept here, Rebecca? What do you guys tell people when they come out and visit this place?
That we found a skeleton in the bed.
No, you didn't.
Casa Rodenda. When people stayed here, they'd all move their beds to the middle because the rain would get to them.
Not anymore, though.
Nope. We like to catch lizards anywhere we can. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. And we've seen iguana-looking lizards. We look at them and then we don't release them. Sometimes we try to keep them, but this is Casa del Mar. This was the house that we stayed in when we first got here. And Dad made like a wall separating the two places. And this is still Casa del Mar.
How's been your water pressure all the time?
Oh, like super water pressure.
Oh, now I understand. What do you mean?
Dad built this, and when he'd get us to the other side, because there was a bunch of wasp nests near the door, he just lifted us over the part that he hadn't built yet.
Okay.
My dad found this in a cave with his friend.
Go.
Goat. Yeah. This is where my dad adjusts us and does this. This is our pond, 500 fish. 500. Because we used to have koi in there. The koi are gone. We used to have a turtle in there, but we haven't seen them yet. These are almonds. And over there's oranges. Back there's some limes. And there's a lime tree right there. And back there is sweet oranges. And here, there's a chinola vine. This is the yoga loft. It's the yoga loft. And when the people were here, I got paid $1 from sweeping the deck. El Cuatro. This is Luna.
If you enjoy watching our content and you want us to make more, please like and subscribe. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and see you soon on the next episode of It's Your Life, Time to Live It.